Hey guys, I hope you had a lovely Christmas and or holiday. Obviously didn't in the UK because Christmas was cancelled this year by the UK government. Praise be. So now we're going to look at the Stalingrad map in a little bit more detail, and I just want to make it blatantly clear to you guys, right? Especially if you're a patron or subscribe starian, you guys have been supporting this channel for a while. Well, a lot of the money that you've been giving me has been going to Terry, the graphic designer. I didn't do this map, she did. She's been working on it for months, and I want to kind of give a bit of a story behind this because it's worth noting that this is literally the best Stalingrad city map currently in existence. I've not seen anything like this one, and the story behind it is Anton Jolly gave me a map of Stalingrad City, which was a Soviet map, I think, used at the time. It's even got the markers on saying this is where the units are. And he said that this is the best Stalingrad map that he has ever seen. Now, the problem with the Soviet map is that the buildings aren't shown properly. What's happened? What they did is they said, this is a city block, we'll just make it a rectangle. Right? So there could be 8 houses in that rectangle, but they're not represented on the map. So I gave this map to Terry and said, can you make the Stalingrad city map out of it? She did, but she gave it back to me. This was a few months ago, and I looked at it and was like, no. And the reason why is because it only displayed those rectangles and squares and didn't display the individual buildings. So again, Anton Jolly had given me the aerial photographs for Stalingrad, so I then went back to Terry and said, sorry Terry, but can you use the aerial photographs to put the buildings in and really make the city look like it did on the aerial photographs, but obviously in this sort of style. And so she went away again and she redid, and it took her ages, weeks, months, I can't remember, to do it. So, but she has done it. And so we now have this map, which is, as I say, probably the most accurate Stalingrad map in existence that displays the whole city that there is. But yeah, Terry has done a fantastic job. I'm really, really happy with what she's done. It's brilliant. If you guys need graphics and stuff like that, if you need a new avatar or you need thumbnails, let's say you're another YouTuber and you want decent graphics, then Terry's the girl. Check out her website and give her an email. I would say as well, Anton Jolly has been a great help. He's still helping now, as we'll talk about in a second. So his YouTube channel is in the description. Now, Anton Jolly, the French historian, for those of you who are not sure, has been in contact with a Russian historian called Igor Kobyakov, which I probably butchered, I'm sorry. Now, Igor has apparently got a team of Russian historians or whatever working, doing other things. They've in fact got a bunch of articles out right now, which Anton Jolly has translated into English. And so you can have a read of them. There's 5, I think, at the minute. So if you want to read through them, all on Stalingrad, again, link in the description. But at the minute, the Stalingrad city map isn't quite finished. And the reason why is because Anton Jolly and Igor have agreed to put the words of the place names in the city itself. So I've put a bunch of place names in there, like Mamayev Kurgan and so on and so forth, but I haven't got the Russian names and I haven't got the German names, and I've just placed it as I knew it based on the books that I've got. But Anton Jolly said to me, no, there's 3 ways you could do it. There's the German names, which he says are wrong, but the German sources refer to them as that. So it can get confusing if people are, if I say something like the Milchhaus or whatever, and I don't have it on the map, people will get confused, so I have to be careful with that. He said then, so you got the German one, then you got the 62nd Army's maps and the way that they called it. But then you've also got the local, or the way that the Stalingraders themselves called it. So you've got 3 naming conventions, and in each book on Stalingrad, you might have one of 3, right, of these names. And it can get really confusing because the Germans didn't call it the same. This house over here might be called one thing for the Germans, one thing for the 62nd Army, and one thing for the actual Stalingraders. And so Anton Jolly's like, we're going to have this problem. So Anton Jolly and Igor Kopiakov have agreed to put the names in, and they're going to do, as far as I'm aware, they're going to do all 3 naming conventions because the map is big enough it will actually allow us to do that. In terms of the map itself, how accurate is it? I would say, actually let me use that one. I would say this to about here, including Krasnaya Sloboda. I would say everything within this selected area is pretty much spot on. Outside of this selected area, not so much. I told Terry not to bother with the terrain on this side because it's not important anyway, so that's why that's not important. That's why that's not great. Below this southern area, there are actually villages and stuff on the. When we zoom in, I'll talk to you about that. But there's basically some villages and a forest and stuff that's not on the map. That's fine because it's not really that important because we're already in the city now. And the terrain on this side is a bit of a guess because the original Soviet map didn't show this area. So Alexandrovka, Gorodishi, and Orlovka, which were based on aerial photographs, are probably not necessarily in these correct locations. I actually think Orlovka is a bit further up here, but it could be there. But thinking about it, I think it should be over here somewhere. But it doesn't. It's not a major deal. It's just a bit annoying because it's the map's not 100%, which is unfortunate. But anyway, let's zoom in to the bottom, and we'll go from the bottom to the top. And let's just see how far we can actually zoom in. Quite a way. I mean, we're over 100% now, but you can still zoom in all the way if you want. That's too far. Let's go to 100. There we go. So I'll just zoom out a bit. But yeah, we can zoom in quite a way. There is a bridge across the Volga. I think it's either here or here. I'm not sure which. But obviously the bridge is destroyed by the time the Germans get to it, so it's not a major deal. It's not on the map. This area is where 29th Motorized Division moves in. 94th Infantry moves in here. 24th Panzer moves in here through the Minina suburbs. And they're aiming for this Yelshanka Balka area. The infamous grain elevator. The one that they were firing like 88mm shells at and just didn't do anything. That's this one. We'll be getting to that. But you can see there's quite a way through the city. There's a barracks here. Train station number 2, fire department. The tram depot, kind of important. Waterworks. Oil mill and dairy. And then we get to the Tsaritsa Balka. Very, very, very important area. Central landing stage is there, but this is a very important area for a few reasons. I don't really want to spoil it, but yeah, we'll be seeing the Tsaritsa Balka a bit. The Tsaritsyn bunker was Yeremenko's original headquarters, but then he advanced backwards across the Volga, and Chirikov was originally on the Mamayev-Kurgan area, and then he moved to here. So he was actually in here for a little bit. But yeah, this area is quite important. You might recognize, if you know anything about Stalingrad, the Univermag, or is it Vermag department store. That ends up being Palace's HQ. They've got the Red Square, nail factory, the infamous fountain. You know, the fountain with the crocodiles and the dancing children. That's there. And yeah, House of Specialists. That's actually a House Specialist too. This whole area is. This is in the wrong location. This should be over here, I think, according to Igor. It's not a Grosbank. It's Gosbank, I think. Central train station number 1. There's some of these names are incorrect, but they have been updated a little bit, and I've been told about this. I think there's no power station here. That's not right. Pavlov's house. So where is this? So just so you can know where it is, it's over here, right in the middle sort of area. Pavlov's house. Zabolotny House here, 9th of January Square. Obviously, you should know what that is. L-shaped house. You know, and no, just notice as well. So Pavlov's house is about here. So it's just middle or just below the middle of the city. You know, the tractor factory's up here, so you can see the Germans did push them into quite far into the city, because this became basically the front line at one point. And then we keep going up. Some of these are incorrect. That's not the NKVD barracks, or at least it isn't in reality. I think the Germans might have called it that, but it's on one of the maps that I've seen of the city. They showed it as the NKVD barracks, but apparently that's wrong. The Mamayev Kurgan and the Stalingrad airfield area. The airfield runway, I think, is over here somewhere, but it's not. It doesn't look so good on the aerial photographs or whatever, so I couldn't identify exactly where it is, but I think it is over here. And then you got the airfield flight school, shooting range. Some of these are incorrect. I think this is not the meat combine, although the Germans might have called it that. That's not the meat combine. Then we get to... I'm not sure if these are the oil tanks that blew up, or if there's more over here and they were the ones... In fact, it could have been these ones that blew up. There's quite a few, so I'm not sure which ones are the ones which exploded and then nearly got Chirikov. Red October or Krasnaya Oktobia Steelworks. Important, very important. The Red October settlements, etc. Barricades, bread factory. There's a few bread factories, but this one is actually here. I put it in the wrong position. That's the bread factory. More fuel tanks. See, it could be these ones. I'm not sure which ones were the ones that blew up. So, Anton Jolly, if you're watching this, tell me which ones it was. Barricades factory. Very important. There's a few here. Kindergarten, apothecary, commissar's house, cafeteria, printing shop. The Red House. Barricades settlement. Skull Preliminary Part, that'll do. Sports stadium. It's not on here, but there is actually a little bit of a ravine here. I may have to add that in later on. But it doesn't actually go anywhere. I think it's just a few, ravines just in this area. Another bread factory, brick factory. Now this is wrong. This is not the tractor factory settlement. That is the tractor factory settlement. And I forget what this is. So that was something else I got wrong. The tractor factory itself. Another oil depot. Was it this one that exploded? Then you get to the Mokrata Mechatka River. I will pronounce it right in the series, don't worry. Spartanovka even. And then finally Renok. Renok wasn't on the original map. I had to add that in as well. Using aerial photographs, I gave them to Terry. And as I say, Orlovka I think is over here. But that is... And Krasnaya Sloboda looks okay. I think that's about right. But I'm just really impressed by this. Look at how many individual buildings Terry had to put in. Took him months, and I can understand why. But yeah, very happy with that. So, that's a quick tour of Stalingrad. Hopefully you enjoyed it. The new Stalingrad schedule. Let me just explain this. So if you go and look at the videos on my channel for the Battlestorm Stalingrad series, you will see that I have taken away the seasons. Season 1, episode 1, 2, 3. Season 2, episode 4, 5, 6. I've just got rid of that. It's just now episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. The reason I've done this is because I've had that many complaints of people not understanding what the seasons were about, or... I can't even explain it. I've explained it several times and they just don't get it. And people were saying that they thought that there were hundreds of episodes in each season or something. And I'm just like, right, I've had enough. So I've got rid of that. It's just now simple episodes. And going forward, I'm no longer going to do it in batches of 3 because, again, people were annoyed with the gaps between each season and just whatever. So going forward, my aim... currently is to try and get a Stalingrad video out every 4 weeks, maybe 3 if I can manage it, depends on the particular episode. So 3 or 4 weeks, there should be another episode of Stalingrad. I can't do it in 2 weeks because it takes 2 weeks to do the editing, and then I need to do the script, so it won't happen in 2 weeks. 3 weeks might be a little bit too much because, let me put it this way, my priorities have always been the Stalingrad stuff, so I've neglected pretty much everything else, and as a result I've actually run out of research material I've done a bit but not enough to create videos, so I need to do research for the Q&As and things in between that. So 3 weeks is pushing it, so maybe every 4 weeks there'll just be a new Stalingrad episode. I don't know, we'll see. Once I get into the swing of things, maybe it'll be quicker than that. We'll see. It'll also give me time to send the script to Anton Jolly to double check. So that's the plan going forward. So in the next 3 or 4 weeks there will be a new episode of Stalingrad, then 3 or 4 weeks after that will be another one as well. And they'll just carry on like that. For consistency, in the episodes, I'm gonna, when the splash comes up with the Stalingrad, whatever, there will still be seasons in that. It just, there won't be 3 and then a gap and then 3 and then a gap. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about the mistakes in the Stalingrad episodes 16, 17 and 18. In episode 16, I called the Ju-88s Stukas. Obviously, it's the Ju-87s that are Stukas, so I messed that up. In episode 17, I failed to change the date in the reference bar to the 9th of September at the 10 minute 30 mark. And then I kept on displaying the 8th. I did say the 9th, but I don't know how I missed that one. That was my fault. Video 18, I displayed Kempf instead of Hot at the end of the final quote. And then I have been told that I'm mispronouncing Krylov. It's not Krylov, it's Krylov. So from now on, it will be Krylov, unless I forget. Now here's something that you guys need to think about, because I had some people push back on the idea that there had been a turning point in episode 16. Episode 16 is literally called The Turning Point. Is it the turning point? People are saying, well, it might have been the turning point for the Foul Blau campaign, but it wasn't the turning point in Stalingrad. Some people saying Operation Uranus, or Uranus, or however you want to say it. It is Uranus. That was the real turning point of Stalingrad. Others said maybe there's a turning point in the city itself. Personally, I think the turning point for both Stalingrad and Foul Blau is around about episode 16. Maybe slightly earlier, maybe slightly later. Episode 17 is when the attrition starts. The old narrative that the Germans pushed out was that everything was fine. As we rode across the steppe, we were doing really well and we were invincible, and then we got into Stalingrad City, and that's when it all went wrong. Well, that narrative comes undone when you look at episode 17, because up to that point, yeah, they were kind of, alright, there were breaks in the middle, but they were actually flowing around, and it was blitzkrieg and all that. Episode 17 onwards, no more blitzkrieg, it's all attrition, and they hadn't reached the city yet, and they wouldn't do until episode 19, to the 13th of September. So that old narrative doesn't work, and I would say the reason why they went into the attrition phase in episode 16-17 is because the turning point had already happened, and the part of the reason behind that turning point is because of the first Kotlebane offensive, which we'll come back to in the series itself. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it, because it seems so coincidental that the attrition starts, you've got the Kotlebane offensive going on, Hitler is attacking his high command, you got the failure of the Caucasus, and the attrition starts at Stalingrad, so on and so forth. So all these turning points all happen pretty much at the same time, roughly speaking, and that is definitely a turning point. The way I would phrase it is, it may not be the turning point of the war, or even maybe the turning point of the entire 1942 time, but what I would say is that it's the turning point for Foul Blau. It's the end of Foul Blau. Foul Blau has failed at this point, and Hitler understands that he can no longer win the war, certainly not in 1942. So it's a turning point at that point, and it's a turning point for the Stalingrad campaign because it starts the attrition, which then eats away at the Sixth Army even more so than it already has done. So I'm saying it's the end of it's a turning point in the sense of it's the end of the beginning, if that makes sense. And then Operation Uranus is the turnabout. It's the Soviets are now on the offensive. So maybe it's the end of the German offensive is this episode 17, and then there's a period of stalemate during the Stalingrad campaign, and then Operation Uranus is we will strike back. So there's like 3 distinct phases. So I think this episode 17 was the end of the beginning. Let's put it that way. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'm deliberately leaving the assessment about the Kotlebane offensive probably until next episode, or even the episode after that. And part of the reason why is because I want to discuss it in the series, and I want to wait for it to finish, and it only finished episode 18. So obviously the real first time we can discuss it. I mean, I could have done it in 18, but I wanted to get on with the battle, so it'll probably be discussed next episode, maybe, we'll see. But the question is, who's to blame? Is it Stalin, or is it Zhukov, or somebody else, right? And people were having to go, oh, you're just blaming Zhukov, or you're just blaming Stalin. I haven't said anything yet, really. I'm showing you that Zhukov is blaming Stalin, and I'm also saying Zhukov isn't 100% correct, because he's putting the blame on Madman Stalin, when in reality, he was making these decisions as well. He was agreeing with Stalin, and he was pushing for the same offensive, and the reason why is because it was working. It wasn't working on the tactical level, and maybe he is to blame for that, but it was working on a more operational level because it was distracting the Germans from Stalingrad. So, is it really Stalin's fault? Is it really Zhukov's fault? Is it neither of them had a choice? They just had to get on with it because they needed to end the attack on Stalingrad. They need to help the 62nd Army. You're right. So there's a debate around that. So I'm deliberately leaving it, but that is the question. And a lot of you obviously have opinions on that because I've seen the comments. But I'm not, I have been saying, no, Zhukov is incorrect here, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to blame him at the end. I haven't made a decision yet. So, and people were asking if we could go down to the squad level when we get into the city. The answer to that is no, for the most part, because the sources don't allow it. No, they don't. But there are certain cases where they do. When you talk about Pavlov's house, we can go down to squad level, or some of the factories, when we get to them, some of the squads are mentioned, so maybe we can do that. But no, I actually asked Anton Jolly if he thought it was possible to do battalion level, and he thinks no as well. So if we can't go down to battalion level, we certainly can't go down to street fighting level. So I'm really glad that you guys like the maps, because a lot of effort went into making both of them, and Terry's done a lot of it. Without her, I don't know what would have happened. I probably would have had to put the Stalingrad series on pause while I make a city map. So, it's all worked out really well. Subscribe stars and patrons have been, donating for months, and now it's been revealed, like, hey, this is what's happening. You're not just giving me money for nothing. You're getting back as good of a quality content that we can possibly make, right? Which is the ideal here. I'm trying to raise the bar and say, can we make something that, it won't stand the test of time. In 20 years' time, it'll be out of date, but will it be something that in 20 years' time you'll look back and go, that was great. We need, maybe something else come along since then, but tick, raise the bar, and, we all remember that. So that's kind of what I want to do here. I want to make something that doesn't necessarily stand the test of time, but raises the bar so that everything that comes after it is even better. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And I think you guys can see that, hopefully. But anyway, so thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting if you have done. And I'll see you next week. Bye for now.